Well,
Well,
hey
hey
everyone.
everyone. Welcome to Kitchen Table TCG, and I'm here with my new friend Herman. Nice to meet you. Herman is the winner of is this the second? Is this the second big Metazoo tournament?
This would be the first big one of this year that I know of. I mean, the first NFT one for sure.
Yeah, I think that you said you got second place in another tournament. That was an in-person tournament, right?
Yes, that was.
Okay, so one of the first, anyway, the first big Metazoo tournament I've seen that had got some traction, at least, and a lot of people viewing and watching and playing. I think there were like 60, 70 people in the event. So dude, congratulations. This was this past weekend. It is currently the third. This was a kind of a New Year's type thing. Congratulations on winning the first place. How did it feel?
I was exhausted. It feels great though now that I had to take the whole Sunday just to recover from a 12-hour marathon of
It was
this.
long. I tried to
Yeah.
catch some of it on the stream, but my kids were going crazy, and I just couldn't get to a place where I could actually focus on it and watch it all happen. But yeah, how many games did you end up playing?
A total of 9 matches.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. All right, well, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's start this way. I like starting off all the TCG conversations just asking you how you got involved in trading card games, and not just MetaZoo, but the beginning stories for Herman getting involved in TCGs.
Well, initially it was like Pokemon for most people my age. When I was like 7 or 8, you start watching the shows on like WB and stuff like that. So I played Pokemon when I was a kid, and then I got into really heavily into Yu-Gi-Oh especially during high school and afterwards. So I'd had some success in that. I've was a finalist in '09 at Orlando, and a
Oh
couple
wow,
other yeah,
is
a
that was
couple
a
other
national
tops in that.
tournament?
That was at that time it was called SJC before they changed it to where it went back to Konami actually holding them themselves.
Gotcha.
So that was a heavy time. That's where I
Wow,
met most of my friends,
that's awesome.
and yeah. So, and that's really what got me back into Metazoo because it was the friends I had there that got me interested in it. So, and that's kind of where a lot of my experiences come from for its background. A little Pokemon, a little Magic, but really big into Yu-Gi-Oh.
Did you say what place you got in that tournament? You say you won that
Uh,
tournament?
I got second on the '09 one, and there's a couple others that I've topped 16.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's incredible. That's a big deal in the trading card game world. Those are big tournaments. Um, cool. So you got involved then, and so when was do you still play Yu-Gi-Oh?
No, I got out of Yu-Gi-Oh roughly around the time they started doing links. So,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
So I was in through Exceeds and Synchros and stuff like that, Pendulum Summons, but never really like heavily focused onto it because it's just so easy to shift through cards. Like I would do selling cards half the time because there's so much money involved. Like it just came hand in hand with notoriety.
Yeah, that's cool. Huh. I know nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh, so I don't know. I don't know what questions to ask you about your Yu-Gi-Oh experience because I was a Magic the Gathering person. I played
Okay.
Yu-Gi-Oh when I remember one time I bought a box of Yu-Gi-Oh and tried to get my mom to play with me, and she did not have any interest in doing that, and so that didn't go the way that I wanted it to. But um, tell me, so your friends started getting involved in MetaZoo. When
Mhm.
you first picked it up, what were your thoughts? What were your what is it about it that made you say I want to actually build decks and compete in this game?
So my friend, his name is Russell. He originally went to the event release at Rocky Mountain Collectibles.
Yeah, I
So
saw that. That was a cool. I saw one that was posted.
yeah, so they had like their own the medals, like one of the ones I won. They had the medals there, and they actually stamped them for that particular event. So what got me into it was like I liked the cards, but it was going so crazy, like how much they were shooting for in such limited runs. So for me, it was just I like the artwork. The cards look awesome, and I haven't played any card games in years. Basically, the only thing I do is play poker. Basically,
Yeah,
so so that was the extent of that. But it looked like a lot of fun. The card arts were really cool, and there was already like just the hype and community in the way that like what Michael Waddell was doing things was very intriguing to me.
yeah.
It
So
was
it's
just like
actually it wasn't necessarily even the idea of gameplay. It was more the idea of like the collection and the value of the cards that initially drew you to it. And then even though they're expensive, you're like, I still want to build decks. because I hear all the time that's like the game's too expensive to get into before second edition.
Well, I'm always going to be intrigued by gameplay, especially when you have something that says that I can do an extra thing in a fourth wall effect.
Yeah.
Completely unheard of outside of like Magic, where they did. There's the funny cards that you like rip up and then shower on.
Yeah, the unsets.
Exactly.
Actually, that's a great segue into another question, which would be, how did they handle fourth wall effects in the tournament?
Okay, so this is something they do really well. What they did was they came out with a list of approved fourth wall items that will trigger these effects. So cards like Growth lets you draw 5 cards, but you have to have a plant inside. So what they'll do is you have an official like piece of paper that you write down 4 chosen fourth wall effects items for representation. So you put plant to trigger that card, Quetzalcoatlus gains attack for there being a light bulb in play, and there are other items that you can use that'll prevent cards from happening, like radio.
Okay.
So you choose 4 of those, and you can only use 1 of each.
So at the beginning of the game, you say this one's coming out, or the tournament people select those 4.
So like you write your main deck and side deck for competitive play, there's also an area for you to write your 4 chosen fourth wall items to ensure that you're still using the same ones at all times.
Gotcha. And so then for each game, you select 1, or
all 4 are in play. For
all 4 are in play. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Sorry, I missed that. So they actually have a list of items that are available that you can select 4 of, or you can do any item. You just have to have 4 listed.
It's an approved list.
Okay,
so,
cool.
There are some things that are like player specific that they choose to leave undefined, like age and stuff like that, just to keep it like comfortable.
Yeah.
So they do very well with that.
I think it's a really cool idea, because I think you can see some really cool events pop up where an LGS or a Star City Games or like one of the big companies could host an event and say, hey, the fourth wall effects are these 16 fourth wall effects, and then you guys as the players are decking or creating decks based around what fourth wall effects will be in play and what things will be in play in that meta at that tournament. I think that's a really cool dynamic, and it's really interesting.
That is in play. That is definitely in play from what I've heard from Mike, and I also know a few people in Austin that are doing a tournament just like that on the 29th.
Are you in Texas?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I've heard there's a huge group of people who are
playing
in Texas.
One of my friends that I've helped get into it is Mr. Run It Up Collectibles.
Oh,
so
cool.
So Logan, he's been doing a lot of stuff in Dallas. It's just a big old following because based in Houston.
That's cool. Like, I think there's going to be these really cool pockets of tournaments like that are, and then obviously Metazoo is doing a lot of the tournaments on TTS, right? Where they're kind of highlighting that as the online play version for now until I think they're going to have a client that's coming out eventually at some point for online play. But yeah, that's super cool. So, all right, let's tell me a little bit about, I've got some questions here. What did you expect the meta to be as you popped into this tournament, and what kind of was there any reason that you expected that? I know there's like a Discord server that's the Caster Society. Was there conversations about the meta leading into this tournament, or did you just kind of go in blind with with what you wanted to create and play?
Well, I did watch some of the Caster Society stuff. Those guys are local. I do know quite a few of them. And I noticed the ice deck, which I thought was really interesting that they were playing. It kind of ran through that was the last video I'd watched. So that was in my head and kind of in my TTS, just trying to mess around with it. But there hasn't been like too much outside of Quetzalcoatlus decks, the lightning deck, water deck, which is a lockdown, and fearsome critters is basically your red deck wins with 1-drops. So right. I expected those. And ice deck, I really didn't know it was going to come out as strong as it did.
So how did you feel like you had a water deck, correct?
Correct.
How did you feel like that was positioned in the meta between those things? And what's the interactions between the water deck and some of those other decks that you just mentioned?
Well, originally I played Quetzalcoatlus a lot. That was a very good balance for me to play something that has rush, fleet. It comes in with not fatigued, which is a big thing because like Magic and a couple other games, it's summoning sickness,
right?
Typically. But what water does is it takes advantage of using their effect to lock down creatures that can be targeted, which is most of the meta outside of ice now, that with the new, not really new, but just more utilized trait.
Yeah, that things can't be targeted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So you just felt like your deck being a lockdown deck and the meta being a lot of creature centered things would help you kind of lock down those
I did.
dynamics.
I felt like this was, for one thing, I had trouble on TTS trying to get the exact side build that I wanted for the lightning deck. And so I was like concerned with how it was my lightning deck was already drawing on TTS. It was just really weird and clunky. And the water deck was more streamlined for me. And I had access to every card for that deck for sure, and the extra deck. And my friend Logan had experience with playing my two other friends down in Fort Worth in the Arlington area, who played that deck, who played the water deck, and the creator actually got top 8 in this event.
Oh, cool. That's funny.
So, he was Bagheera, Mikey.
So the top 8, how diverse was that? Like, what were there any of? Was it just those 4 decks kind of in the top 8, or were there anything else?
Yes, it was actually surprisingly only one lightning deck made it. I believe.
Oh wow!
It was I didn't get the exact
the lightning
breakdown.
deck is the Quetzalcoatlus deck, right?
Yeah, the lightning deck Quetzalcoatlus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that was usually a very strong favorite. But there's I believe 3 water decks, a few ice decks, and I know at least one fearsome critter deck, which is the green deck. That's a very tough matchup if you don't really set your hand correctly.
Sure. So how did Nightfall affect those the meta, and did that new set bring in a bunch of new things, or are people still utilizing mostly the Cryptid Nation stuff?
Most of it's going to be heavily Cryptid Nation, but it released some key cards that kind of shook things up. So for water, it gave them Dampen, which is the only 2 card to negate. That just 1 water and 1 colorless. So that gave water a boost that it really needed for a control element. Yeah. And then ice, they got a destroy card that allows you to recycle up to 2 spells from your cemetery and add those back to your hand.
Oh, cool. So kind of just more tuned and like more consistent.
Made it more diverse than the heavy lightning deck that was previous to Nightfall dropping.
Cool. All right. Well, when you were testing, so you played water versus ice in the finals, right? When you were testing, did you test a lot against the ice builds, or were you prepared for that to come into this kind of finals, or were you mostly expecting some other things to pop in? Like, were you mostly testing against the Quetzalcoatlus lightning deck, or were you anticipating maybe at the finals it would be a mirror, or would it be the frost deck, or the were you expecting that, or did you think it was going to be mostly the other ones?
I was surprised to see how many people actually used the ice deck and tried different various builds. I didn't test. That was the first time playing in the tournament that I played against ice. I just watched the video for Caster Society and kind of analyzed it my own way. That's typically what I tend to do, is to make sure that I'm semi-prepared for at least the trait and how to defend against that. And I felt like water had a good matchup against the field. In general, it's always going to have trouble with lightning, because lightning is that quick. But I wasn't sure how many. It basically came down to what I was more comfortable with, and being able to have all my card choices accessible.
Right. Interesting. So I know I'm curious what you think about the tabletop simulator experience. I know there's a lot of conversation going on about these Metazoo events. They're going to be doing more and more tabletop simulator. And I think it's a really, I personally, I guess I'll include what my thing, like, I think it's a really cool way to, it was a lot of fun to watch on the stream. Again, I only got to watch 10-15 minutes, but I watched some of it the other day too. And I think it's easier to see like the cards and how do you feel about that as a player? Do you feel like that limits anything, or would you rather play like the webcam, or do you like the tabletop simulator way that they are doing it?
For viewer experience, I like TTS. I like how everything came out. You can see everybody's card very clearly. It's super easy to do a commentary audio on it. As a player, though, the way the algorithm is very like basic, and what you'll experience is variance outside the norm. With like come to die rolls. Die rolls are weird. I've had like 6-7 straight odds before trying to test against decks. which I guess you can experience to an extent, but it doesn't happen that much in real life
Yeah.
play. And same thing with drawing capabilities. You can have one of the best builds in live play, and you'll get on there, and it just seems terrible because of the way that the number generator comes off or something because you haven't shuffled enough, you shuffle too much.
Yeah.
Like
Interesting.
it's interesting, but I did like the overall experience of it. I would like to see how MetaZoo does
I've heard
something.
similar things about like Arena, like Magic the Gathering Arena, that
Mhm.
the randomizer, even like the way that it matches you up is weird. Like I think that's definitely a concern as all these TCGs are trying to find digital platforms or whatever, that like you just can't beat the in-person thing. I think it's
Mhm.
hard though, like table or like a top-down camera for an online tournament like that. You can do all sorts of other cheating shenanigans off camera. So kind of like
Very true.
brings all this like finding the best of both worlds.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It was super interesting. I think it was really well done. I think it was a long tournament. I felt bad for the people who were commentating. It just felt like, at some point they've been commentating for forever, and they're just
Oh,
done.
I'm
I bet you
sure.
guys played the same way playing, but
Oh my dude, I was like at the end of it, I watched like the last match and I just was mortified because I was like I misplayed there, I misplayed there. I should have locked it up at that point. Like it was just on fumes.
yeah. Well, tell me a little bit more about just why you've chosen MetaZoo. I know there's a conversation in the community. There's it's actually been cool. This past week, as second edition came out, I noticed that in this tournament too, the dialogue in a lot of the Facebook groups has shifted from like people speculating on cards and whatever to people actually talking about playing the game. So, what would you say to somebody who has taken the mantra of MetaZoo is just a collector game and the players don't matter? You as a player, as somebody who's also a collector, and sounds like you've done some dabbling in selling and buying and trading cards too, but as somebody who has obviously invested a lot of time in playing, what would you say to somebody who thinks that MetaZoo is just a collection game?
If you think MetaZoo just a collection game, then as a collector investor, you should get out. I mean, it's not you're not going to make any actual money unless people continue to be interested in these cards. And I don't know if you've noticed, as a collector, they're printing more.
Yeah.
They're printing more to get more people in, which is what you want to do as a business, right? You want to sell more product. So if you actually want your invest to go up, play the game.
Yeah. So convince them. Tell them why it's I mean, like I have played a very me and my buddy Robbie play a lot of the theme decks together. I just don't. I do the same thing with Flesh and Blood. Like I don't have the time to like invest in deck, but I've never won a tournament for any card game. I'm not that person. I'm not very good, but I like playing like and having fun around the kitchen table. That's why Kitchen Table TCG. But as somebody who has placed second in a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament in the United States and has been competitive in trading card world, convince me, sell me on MetaZoo as a gameplay, as not just a free tendies thing, because I'm very curious to hear your position on that.
Okay, so as a person who collects, you always want to like enjoy your investment going up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, in some extent, there's a competitive edge in that. You like amassing this collection, your buddies, people, you naturally gravitate to other collectors, y'all compare collections and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's always going to be a competitive edge. Being able to put your nose to the grindstone, learn the card, learn their effects, gives you a different kind of satisfaction when you understand the game and beat people.
Yeah.
So the natural side effect of that is certain cards get more popular and they go up.
Yeah, I get that. So I guess what I'm saying, like you see that MetaZoo has the ability, like you can see a meta. MetaZoo, right? You can see a meta, and you feel like in MetaZoo there's the capability for you to put your brain and be a better player. It's not just about, like, I hear this all the time. It drives me nuts because this has not been my experience, where people are like, how could you possibly have a competitive game with all these random fourth wall effect things? How could you possibly, it's not even playable at all. Like you see it on Facebook. I want to hear from you, somebody who has play tested and who has put this to the, like, why do you enjoy What is it about the game that allows you to say, yeah, this is worth playtesting because I feel like I can be better at the game than somebody else?
Okay, so from my experience, I got to know a lot of people through playing. I have a lot of friends who I've met through Yu-Gi-Oh,
Mm-hmm.
and they've all kind of dissipated. But what got us together was being able to be creative and use this as our own creative outlets.
Yeah.
Putting in cards and finding their own synergy with each other is awesome to watch unfold, and then see other people get inspired and try to build their own deck and be competitive and be like, hey, I've seen you win. I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
Like one of my closest friends was at the time the best player in the world for Yu-Gi-Oh. His name is
Yeah.
Philly Luna. You can still Google him, and he'll pop up at the first 4 times Shonen Jump winner.
Mm-hmm.
So and after playing with him for like 3 or 4 days a week for like 6 months, it became less of like just kind of playing around to actually challenging yourself to become better and learn like all these little nuances in the play styles, play theories, and actually watching them unfold. Like it was very gratifying for me to watch him win with a version of my deck
Yeah.
that I've beaten him with for 3 or 4 months,
That's
and
cool.
to be able to take his fourth one down. That was awesome for me to see that. And then the next event was the one I got second at.
That's cool.
So it's cool to see like iron sharpens iron, what a friend of mine would say.
Yeah.
You get like high level competitiveness in good fun. Like we're not really people that like drama and stuff like that. I know a lot of it can come to like butting heads because people passions get high.
Right.
But it's cool to see take an idea that people aren't really floating around with like ice, and show the synergies of like, okay, this can compete against what decks for meta because they're not expecting it.
Right.
Like to be the underdog. They told me I was the underdog at Houston because no one knew who I was.
Yeah.
And I shot through and got second at that one, and I keep like just kind of popping up. I'm not really active in their Discord. Like I don't talk to a lot of people, but like I've met Kevin, their head R&D guy. I've talked to Ted before, and who's their social media, who's their social outreach. And it's interesting to see like how it starts small, but I can see it growing. Just little by little. And friends of mine like Mr. Run It Up Collectibles, just trying to build their own communities out. And I play with those guys.
Right.
I got some of my old friends in from Yu-Gi-Oh that showed me this deck, and they beat Logan at one of the tournaments showing me this deck. So it was
cool.
The water deck. It was great to see like people are coming up with different things, different strategies, answering problems that I've had problems with in my own deck building.
Right. That's awesome. I love to hear that there is a plethora or the ability to have the resources to put together creativity in the metas and try to shake things up. And I love hearing like the deck building going on and that kind of stuff. There's a couple resources that I'm aware of. One of is the Caster Society Discord, and I'll try to link that in the comment section below for people where I see, I'm just kind of lurking in it, but people posting all these deck texts, and it's just like, a stack of cards that they have funny names for the decks, and it's fun to see people kind of home brewing and figuring out the game. I feel like Metazoo's gotten a lot of criticism. It's only 4 or 5 months old since Crypto Nation first edition, so I think there's a lot of room for people to experiment, especially with Nightfall and Wilderness coming out. What are some of those resources that you would, as somebody who has been around, give to people to say, hey, if you're interested in learning or deck playing or deck building, here's some people to connect with, here's some servers or whatever. Anything else that you'd recommend?
Caster Society is doing a lot of good stuff. I like how they're doing their Twitch. I'm currently writing for a new company that just started on January 1st of this year, and there will be articles that Obnoxious 9 Gaming, Obnoxious 9 Games. They'll have competitive deck articles that you'll be able to read. I actually wrote one about ice and just turned it in, so that'll be a good resource for y'all. Discord, jump into Metazoo Discord. They have people playing casual games on TTS that you can watch. They'll just let you watch and play. So I would also go on Twitch for Metazoo, and you can see all the ones that I played in this last tournament, and there's a few other games that they have previous streams on that I would definitely check out. TTS will be your big, if you don't have people to play with, TTS is a great option. You'll be able to find YouTube videos and get all the cards that you need for it.
Yeah. I think we're going to start offering some TTS events in my Discord server as well for patrons and stuff like that. And hopefully, as people get seconded, I think there's no better time for stores or players to get involved in Metazoo than right now with second edition. The boxes are $100. It's so cheap to get product and to get the cards, and you don't have that kind of $1,000 box price of first edition that we saw right out the gate. So I think it's a great time for people to get invested in. Put the not financially invested, but like time invested in learning how to play.
Absolutely, yep.
and diving in and experiencing it rather than just collecting it, and actually putting finger to the metal. Finger to metal, I don't know, that's not a saying, it's something I just made up. Hey, what were your 4 items? You started, but I think I cut you off. Your 4 items for your deck, what were they?
So radio prevents a card from coming into play and having fleet to attack directly. Water for Loveland Frogman's effect to go off. Mirror, there's a card that lets you copy your spell and use it as your own and negate theirs. And Flannel for a card that gains invisibility, which basically it can't be blocked or attacked as long as that's on with invisibility, so it turns that off. So I use those 4 items.
That's super cool. And like I love that. This is what I love about Metazoo. Your LGS can choose to do it in so many different ways. They could choose to say, hey, this week at our LGS, these are the list of items for next week that you can build decks for, and whatever. Or they can say, hey, you have to actually bring the physical items in. So like I just have this picture of my head, like, of a funny LGS event where people are like walking in with a mirror and walking in with a tree. Like they've got their, like, and it'd just be so funny. Like it would be like, it doesn't have to be so serious all the time. And it can just be a funny thing for photos and that's the type of stuff that I think will get some just interest and traction behind it. I loved the volcano fourth wall effect. I always thought it'd be really funny as an LGS to like build a steamed volcano and have it actually erupting on the side of the, you could have a photo where the steamed volcano is going off on the side. Like it's cool stuff, man. I think it's fun and it's cool.
So let me share this with you then. Because of the fourth wall effects, there was a card that said it gained +10 for every inflated balloon in the room.
Yeah.
So for Houston Collecticon, I read the card. I ran to my friend's house. They're literally 5 minutes away from me. I'm like, read this card. Like, yeah, I gained +10 for every balloon. I'm like, okay, read the card again. Like, yeah, I read +10 for every balloon. Why don't we do 500 balloons and bring them with us to Collecticon? It's like a light bulb. It was just like Amazon order just popping up.
That's awesome.
This was before we got the news that it was going to be limited to fourth wall like this. It was. Yeah. I was going to make a video after this being like the shortest tournament in TCG history. No matter what, everything was ending turn 1. Go. It's a 1 card drop.
Yeah.
Like you play dark, you play the clown, you lightning in a bottle and attack because you won the die roll and you win.
And like it's fun because like you could have some elements like that. You could have, an LGS could say, okay, you can bring balloons. You have to bring 20 balloons max, and you have to have them inflated with helium. They have to be like, it's just fun. I just think there's fun sides to it, and it doesn't have to be that competitive. You can have the competitive side that are limited, just like your tournament that you guys had, where they've actually thought through what the fourth wall effect should be and how to balance it for a meta. But then there's the fun side of it too that I think is really creative and enjoyable. So
I agree. There's a lot of, that's why the spirit of the game is so much more casual and fun. Like people are kind of getting more serious more that they play, but it started from this. Yeah, I brought my bamboo shoot, so I'm going to use growth to draw 5 cards.
Yeah.
I'm looking at like a 3 bulb light lamp playing. Like, oh, it gets +30.
Yeah, it's so great. And that will generate people's interest and people coming into the game to have fun. And then I think the more fun that you have while you're learning to play a game, the more that you enjoy and the more that you want to actually become competitive with it. And then you'll see those competitive events that will, again, limit those fourth wall effects so that it's competitive and not just like hey, I brought 500 balloons and so I win. Like,
exactly.
It'll balance it. So super cool. Well, hey, Herman, anything else that you want to say to the people who may be still watching 35 minutes into the video?
I gotta say thank you to my friends for getting me into this, and for my friend Logan, who been just a real like force in building the community, for always keeping me, for pushing me. Henry V and Philip Henderson talked to me about the deck after they showed after they beat Logan down with it. So I gotta thank them. They were instrumental in helping me with the win, and the side decking choices that they made was phenomenal. And Mikey, who got top eight, he was Bagheera for creating the deck initially before they got into it. So it's a real cool and community experience to be able to bring back something that was nostalgic for me, being 18 years old playing Yu-Gi-Oh,
Yeah.
and seeing friends that I haven't talked to in probably like 5 years because I moved and I just switched from playing TCG to playing poker.
Yeah.
Like, it's great to see the nostalgia. So I gotta thank the community for that, and of course you have to thank Kevin, their R&D head, for creating some real interesting scenarios and card interactions. He was one of the commentators, and it was just hilarious to hear him talk about be excited about everything.
Mm.
And I like what the company's doing. I like where it's heading. But for everybody who wants to be competitive or want to get in the game that kind of frustrated for how they're rolling things out, be patient.
Yeah.
It's 6 months old.
Yeah. And it's 6 months old with a lot of hype. And I think this release, the second edition release, even though there's some, I love the price of stuff. I love that it's accessible. I love that if you have been on the fence about playing Metazoo for the last 3 or 4 months, you have no excuse now. Like it's easy to hop in and get the card. So
you can buy boxes below MSRP.
Yeah.
MSRP
way below.
Yeah. $100.
Like it's great. And congratulations on your NFT win, man. I as a multiple Genesis NFT holder, I am jealous that I don't have the skills to win something like that. That's pretty incredible and really cool.
You can learn it. You can definitely learn it.
I can. If I put the time in, I can. The problem is I'm going to put the time into the YouTube channel instead, which is great. It's good.
You know what?
Everyone knows their place.
Enjoyment.
Everyone knows their place. You go win the tournaments, and I'll make videos, and you can come on the videos, and we can hang out and chat.
That's fair. We'll chat again for sure.
Well, Herman, congratulations, and enjoy the rest of your Metazoo TCG experience. So you got second place in one, you got first place in this one. Now you need a third place. So maybe next time you'll get third place.
Possibly. Well, this one didn't give out the medal prize cards, so there are a couple that are coming out. There's one in 22nd that I'll be playing in DFW that will have medals in, so I'm excited.
Cool.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, good luck, man. Keep up the good work. And again, those people who are watching, I'll leave a link to the Caster Society Discord group. I think that's one of the best places to do resources. Herman, what was the website that your article is going to be on?
Obnoxious9games.com. Yes. Okay. Obnoxious9games.com.
When that video gets posted, make sure you shoot it to me, and then I'll link that in the comment section of this as well for anybody who pops in later. And thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. And everyone, remember to be kind to the people around you, and we'll see you again next video.
That's a good one.